What's up everyone, it is 2026. RAM prices are way through the roof, but today here right now, we're building a server. If you have ever wanted to build a server, you might think right now is not the best time to do so due to the increase in PC parts. But as new parts, if you are able to source things locally, used, or if you have old parts laying around, you can still build one today without spending an arm and a leg. So let's build one. Let's start with our motherboard. Here we have a Gigabyte GA-A320M S2H Micro ATX motherboard. This board is not the most powerful or best on the market compared to other options out there, but for this server it will be more than enough. The only thing to look out for if you use this motherboard is the fact that it only supports up to a 5000 series CPU, which requires a BIOS update. And I am using it because it is something I had laying around, so a little bit of free, not really, but we'll go over prices in the end. Next, let's talk about our CPU. We are going with a Ryzen 7 5700G. With integrated graphics, 8 cores and 16 threads, it is plenty for what this server will need. And I also got this at a nice discount deal, so you can't beat that, but prices later. First, let's line up the triangles. This thing's always a little worrisome, but not really. As long as you connect, you just let it drop in there. You can feel it just like that. Easy. Okay, so to keep the CPU cooled, we will be using a Thermalright AXP90X36 low profile cooler. Again, this is perfect for this application as we want to take as little vertical space as possible since this server will go in a server rack. As you can see, it is a very low profile cooler. It's amazing. The mounting for this is a little weird. It has to go right through the motherboard onto the other end, then screw on to the other end, and I'm actually missing the hardware. Hold on. Before that, let's move this out so we have more space to work with. And here's what we will need. But first, we have to take off the already existing adapter. So let's do that. Okay. The way you should install these coolers, or the way you even do it in the first place, you just go through the pre-existing holes, of course, and then in the other end, we will be using some nuts to be able to close this off. But before we do that, we have to apply our thermal paste. Now, the cool thing about this cooler is that it already has thermal paste included in the package, and that is their own Thermalright TF7 thermal paste. The best method that I have found based on previous experience and other systems that I have done is to do the X. In my opinion, this will evenly spread it out as needed. Is this too dry? Okay, you know what? I have no idea how old this thermal paste is. And this is looking a little like gum, so you know what, let's clean it off. Let's do something else. Okay, instead let's go with an Arctic MX4 thermal paste. Now, it doesn't really matter what thermal paste you use as long as it does its job, right? If you apply it correctly how you should, if you evenly spread it out, you should be okay. You can get a spreader to do so, but I think as long as you do the X, that is the best method that I have seen to evenly spread it out. Okay, that should be perfect. Drink water. Okay, now that that's in place, we have to install the bracket in the back. There we go. Now with that in place, let's hand tighten these bolts. And there you go. We have them all torqued down. Now we can come to the other side. And we still have a lot of room to connect this connector, so we should be good. Okay, so now that we have the cooler installed, let's install the most expensive part of this build, the RAM. We will be using 16 gigabytes of DDR4 at 3200 megahertz. And while we only have one stick, we will not be able to take advantage of the dual channel features that this board can do. But with the prices of these RAM sticks, that is something for later on. For now, let's stick to what we got and let's keep this a little budget friendly. Okay, so let's install it on slot number 2. This is always so, it feels like, I don't know, like the game of Operation. If you're not careful, man, oh my God. Especially right now, it's gonna be expensive. So with that aligned, let's hold our breath and we should be okay. Now that we have most of our components installed, let's talk about our storage. We will be using a Micron SATA SSD with a grand total of 512 gigabytes. And yes, believe it or not, SATA SSDs are also going up in price. Let's connect our SATA cable. Of course, I have it upside down. Cool. And last but not least, let's talk about our power supply. To power our server, we are going with a Cooler Master G550M semi-modular power supply. And while yes, this power supply is a little old, I got it for a really nice deal. And with it being semi-modular, I don't have to deal with the extra cables. So I'm able to save as much space as I can in my server rack. Okay, so let's connect everything as needed. First, let's start by connecting our CPU cooler. We want to power our SATA SSD. Boom. Oops. Let's give our CPU some power. We will not be using our PCIe cables as we do not need an external graphics card since we already have them built in. And last but not least, our main power source, the 24 pin. So now that we have all of our components installed, let's test it out. Okay, so now that we have the Proxmox ISO installed in our USB, let's boot into it. And so far, we have successfully boot into Proxmox. So now let's install it. Okay, so now after configuring Proxmox and our virtual machine, let's start it up and see if everything is working as it should. And boom, just like that, we have successfully booted into our virtual machine. For now, let's go ahead and just do an internet speed test. A performance benchmark will give different results based on your virtual machine's configurations and other factors. So for now, let's ensure that our virtual machine can even connect to the internet in the first place. We can also check our VM's configuration to ensure that it is what we allocated. We can see our Ryzen 7 5700G. We can see it's 34 gigabytes of storage and it's allocated 2 gigabytes of RAM. We can also go back and take a look at Proxmox's configuration. We can see our CPU details, our 5700G. We can see our server's 16 gigabytes of RAM And we can see it's allocated 100 gigabytes of storage. Okay, finally, after building our server and configuring Proxmox, let's talk about pricing. I paid a grand total of $250 for this system, or $190 if you consider the fact that I already had the RAM. And at the time of making this video and considering prices of eBay, which you and I can both see, this is what you can expect to pay for this system. The difference between these two prices is the fact that I source most of my things locally, whether it was Facebook Marketplace or I shopped at a local used technology store. I was able to get some decent deals. But there were some components that I cheaped out on that I could have done a little better. Take the power supply, for example. While I did cheap out on it and got a decent deal, this is nearing 10 years old, and the chances of it failing are much higher. I could have instead spent an extra $10 or $20 to buy a newer or more efficient one. But then again, it was $30, it's semi-modular, and most importantly, it works. I mean, it's a win-win. And now, for the future of this server, the sky's the limit, really. You can make a jump server, a proxy server. You can host your own media on this. It is whatever you would like. That is the good thing about Proxmox and being able to deploy either containers or virtual machines. And even with AI being here and shooting a lot of these components up in price, you can still make a pretty decent and budget-friendly server in 2026. And I highly encourage you to do so, because not only will it increase your skills, but with the rising costs in subscriptions and services, you can mitigate that and host everything in your own personal server. And to answer the title, yes, you can still build a budget-friendly and a decent server in 2026. But with that being said, thanks for watching. Leave me a comment below. Let me know if I can improve on something that you would like to see. And don't forget to subscribe, because I have a lot of other content coming that is not just server, and you might want to see it.